I gotta wait. How long I gotta wait for a press record?
Go.
Welcome to the share, where Miss Dreme always has a story.
I'm Dreme, a black woman with many beautiful interconnecting identities. A few I will name at this moment as we get started on this podcast journey together. A Bostonian, born and raised in the inner city, Dorchester and Roxbury neighborhoods, to a teenage single mother who has my whole heart. An educator, I've been working with youth and children since my teenage years, and formally, I have been teaching almost a decade now. That's wild to think about. An entrepreneur, I am the founder of The Chair, a black and brown centered tech platform dedicated to supporting people on their hair journey, where you can design hairboards, connect to hairstylists, and share hair care tips for a more joyous experience. I have a workable site, my prototype. It took me 2 years to build, and now I'm on this adventure that you're currently on with me. My goal for this podcast is to share stories, black stories, educator stories, entrepreneurship stories, and hair stories. I want you to leave each episode with the opportunity to gain new insight, just a glimpse into my world or the worlds that are featured on my podcasts, a little chuckle during your day or night, possibly a little anger to encourage you to advocate for justice, and hope to continue learning and dreaming. So come in and listen to the beautiful voices in the chair as they share their stories, starting with me.
Where we share stories in the chair.
Hello, beautiful people. This is Cheryl Kaiser. Cheryl Kaiser, can you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hello, I'm Cheryl Kaiser, and I am the Executive Director of the Institute for Social Innovation at the Blank School at Babson College. You know, my relationship with you is my why that I'm at Babson College, period. I mean, it's fundamentally the reason I get up in the morning and want to raise money and resources and connections because I want to be in relationship with you and further what is most important to you.
Yeah, and I definitely see that. I'm curious to know, along this process and the worlds that you've entered into, what race plays for you as a white woman. I want to understand how you've navigated racially, but before asking that question, I'm curious to know, do you remember the first time you identified as white or you saw yourself as white?
Yeah, I think the first time I saw myself or identified myself as white was when I went back to my father grew up in Sparta, Georgia, which was 90% black, and my father's white. And his father was a peddler and an immigrant from Russia who ran the dry goods store. And I remember as a young person, the first time I actually went to my dad's home was when I was young, maybe 6 or 7. And I remember going and being one of very few white people that I saw for a week. And my father also lost his mother and his stepmothers when he was very young. So he was raised by a black woman who worked with my grandfather. And so I had never been in an environment like that. It was the first time it was so strong at 5 or 6 that I was white and I was not black.
And you identify as Jewish as well, yes?
Yep, I do. I'm not a practicing Jew, but I was raised as a Jew. My parents were Reform, but I identify but was not practicing. So like I'm not religious, but I'm culturally and ideologically identify as Jewish.
Do you feel like you were having a conversation with the culture of Judaism and your connection racially as a Jew in the States?
Well, it's really interesting because I grew up in Fall River, Massachusetts, which is a mill town, and it had a very tight Jewish community in our neighborhood. But my parents never wanted me to go to school in Fall River because the school systems were very far behind the time, and education was a really, really high value for my parents. And also, they didn't know it, and I wasn't diagnosed, but I've always been attention deficit. So they knew my learning style was different. So my parents sent me to private schools outside the city. And back in the 50s, when I went to private school, I was one of very, very few Jews in my class. So it was really clear to me that I was not the dominant culture in that school. And I was very aware that I was Jewish and that I was not Christian, because where I went to school was 45 minutes from my home. So a lot of times I stayed at people's homes on the weekend to stay with my friends, and they took me to church, or they were Quaker. I went to a Quaker school. And so I was very Christian. And the way people talked to me, I knew I was different. They would say, "Oh, can your people eat this? Can your people eat that? Oh, Cheryl, can your people have bacon with your eggs?" and that kind of stuff. And they would say it that way, and I don't think they meant it to be making me feel bad, but it was sort of like, "Can you eat this?" And I was like, "Whoa, never thought about people asking me if we as a group, I hadn't seen me as a group like that." And there was one time I went to a friend's home whose father behind the bar had a Nazi flag. And I do remember calling my mother.
Wow.
And we had stationary phones, and I called her and I said, "Mom, I'm really not feeling well. I think I'm sick. Could you call Mrs. Stanton and have her tell her you need to pick me up? Just say whatever you want to say." And so she picked me up because I was scared, because he was a heavy drinker, and it really freaked me out. So I would say that growing up, I was always a minority, even in private school and high school. Jewish people were the minority in private school back in the 50s.
Where we share stories in the chair.
Look, it's my commercial. We will be right back.
It's more than just a bad hair day. It's a journey. Finding the right hairstyle isn't easy, nor is finding the right stylist or the right products. Looking in every corner of the web gets messy, overwhelming, and exhausting. All the ads, the articles, the products, the videos, it shouldn't be this hard, but it is. And now, it isn't. The Chair. A black and brown centered platform where you can design hairboards, connect to hairstylists, and share hair care tips for a new, joyful path on your hair journey. Avoid the clutter, save yourself hours, months, and even years of research and poor trial and error. Everything you need and only what you need is in one place. Hairboards made by people like you, for you. Find the right products, the right people, the right answers for you, stress-free. Join the Chair community and make every day a great hair day. When you share your pain, you allow others to help you. And when you share your success, you help others get theirs. Lean on the Chair. We got you. No stress, no strife. In the chair. The chair. The chair. All right.
You see yourself as a minority, as a Jew. You've had experiences being one of a few white people in Georgia, and you end up going to Boston College, which I'm assuming is still predominantly white, just as it is today.
Yes, it is. And Catholic. It's primarily Catholic.
Mm-hmm. And so now you're in spaces where whiteness is the predominant people. How do you highlight differences in these spaces that you're in now, since your whiteness is the majority?
I would say that, so one of the things that's been really a top value for the Institute for sure is for a couple of things. Number one, since I got here, some of the people that I'm the closest to are African American. And it doesn't surprise me that people that gravitate to the Institute are African American because to me, social innovation is about diversity of thought and perspective. And it has made me more aware to be more intentional. I think before, because I'm highly relational, it wasn't intentional on my part. And now it's really hard for me not to think about diversity as a key attribute, value, and quality that I want to cultivate. I want to mentor people around because the things I've learned the most are from people that are not like me. In fact, and in social innovation, that does happen to be true. And if you look at all innovation, new and different innovation doesn't come from the dominant thinking in that field. It comes from outside. So I would imagine in a culture, some of the most innovative things in our primarily white culture, some of the innovations that are going to come about are not going to come about because we're creating it, but it's because the not dominant population are trying to make things better. And that I think today, my feeling is that it is a key quality and attribute to living in, to me, a human and innovative society. I see it. I've lived it. I know that to be true.
Oh, and if you're interested to learn more about my experiences as a Black woman and educator in Guangzhou, China, I wrote my first ebook titled Nowhere and Everywhere, Captured Emotions of a Beautifully Broken Love Story. It is on lulu.com. Take a read and see some beautiful photography of mine. Enjoy the rest of the show. Do you have a story of when you know that to be true? Because I think about white people a lot for many different reasons, why, especially as a teacher, and thinking about how I want to teach my kids about who they are as people, and white people are in that conversation. But when it comes to thinking about difference in stories and innovation, especially from a business context, people talk about innovation as if you're innovative, you will make more money, you will be more successful. But no one ever says innovation means you will expand your mindset, you will become a better person. When people talk about innovation, they're not talking about it in terms of diversity of thought or diversity of difference. That's not the ladder we're climbing, but you're climbing that ladder. Do you have a story where you saw how diversity of difference?
Yeah, absolutely. And a very recent one. And one thing I would also say to you is the way that we define social innovation as well is not about breakthrough innovation, not the what, not the innovation, but about breakthrough interactions. And that's what I'm talking about. The breakthrough interaction is me co-creating with someone I never would have created with before, or opened my mind to creating and having somebody partner with me. So I'll give you a great example. Two people. One of my dearest friends who I have known since my days at Boston College, Karen Proctor, who is an African-American woman. I helped design a program for the Arthur Blank Foundation on entrepreneurial leadership in the social sector. And I asked Karen to co-teach with me because I knew me understanding leadership and Karen understanding leadership was going to be really different. My practice of leadership and Karen's is very different. My practice of leadership comes from being a white privileged woman. Karen's comes from being an African-American woman who was raised by a social worker in, I believe, New Jersey. So I invited her and she added huge dimension to the program. Then last year, I really wanted to understand race and gender, and I invited Tina Opie, Professor Tina Opie, who wrote the book Shared Sisterhood. Tina teaches management at Babson. She just won a teaching award and identify as African American. I invited Tina to design the program with me again. Even though I've designed it, I could go do it again and again and people would love it. I am committed to being relevant, changing, and inclusive and innovative in everything that I do. And it was really interesting, Dreme, because I didn't know I wanted to have Tina, because I hadn't seen Tina for years. I knew she had written Shared Sisterhood, and I knew about it. I was walking in the parking lot at Night Auditorium, and I ran into Tina. And I was really happy to see her, because I have always liked Tina. And we said, let's get together for lunch. And we got together for lunch to hear what we were each doing. And it was almost like I channeled something. I just, on the spot, without even interviewing, I just said, hey, Tina, would you like to co-create a program with me this summer? And I can pay you and we could do it. And we are so aligned that we didn't need a lot of time together. We just sort of went, yep, this is who I am. This is who you are. We're going to jam together really, really well. And it was so phenomenal. It's one of the best programs that I've ever done. I've been doing it for 8 years. That's what I'm talking about. It's the willingness to change what you're doing, be open to how inclusion and diversity and innovation can make what you do better, and not be wedded to what you think you know. Be open to that you think something could actually be better and different and more impactful. And I can tell you it was. It's sort of like a dream moment. I mean, a dream moment is that I didn't know what was going to happen. The other thing is you never know, but you just do it. And with the belief that this possibility is going to be better than you can imagine.
Well, Cheryl, thank you so much for sitting in the chair and sharing your stories with me. I truly, truly appreciate it.
I love being in your chair. I love being in your chair.
Welcome to the chair, where Miss Dreme always has a story.
Thank you for listening to an episode of The Chair. I, of course, would love your continued support. Let me know what you think of this episode by doing all the things. Subscribe, comment, and come back next week, every week. Enjoy the rest of your beautiful day. Or if you are like me, enjoy that moonlight and that one star under all your city lights. Love you. Talk to you later.
The chair.
How long I gotta wait for a press record?
Go.
We support her. Shit.
Do your...
Welcome to the chair, where Miss Dreme always has a story. Where we share